You walk past one 100 times a year. Maybe you've sat inside one on a slow Sunday afternoon, feeding quarters into a machine, watching your clothes tumble, killing 20 minutes on your phone, the laundromat. It's so ordinary that you've probably never given it a second thought. But have you ever stopped and asked yourself how much the person who owns that place is actually pulling in every month? Because the answer is nothing like what most people assume. The laundromat might be the most misunderstood small business in America. To the average person, it looks like a perfect machine. There's no inventory that spoils, no menu to manage, no trend to chase. People will always need clean clothes. The quarters just pile up and the owner sips coffee somewhere far away while the machines do all the work. That's the story everyone tells themselves. The reality is stranger, harder, and a whole lot more interesting than that. First, the lay of the land. There are roughly 30,000 laundromats operating across the United States, and together they pull in somewhere between $6 and $7 billion in revenue every single year. They sit in almost every neighborhood where people rent instead of own, and here's the detail that makes investors fall in love with them. Nearly 90% of customers come back again and again, and the vast majority of them live within a single mile of the door. This is a business built on pure routine. People don't shop around for a laundromat the way they shop for a car. They go to the closest decent one, and they keep going for years. Then there's the reputation that made this whole category famous. Laundromats are recession resistant. When the economy tightens and money gets scarce, fewer people can afford to buy a washer or pay to fix a broken one at home, so more of them end up right back at the corner laundromat. While other businesses panic during a downturn, this one often gets busier. Roughly 95% of laundromats are still open 5 years after launching, a survival rate that most small businesses can only dream about. So the demand is steady, the product never goes out of fashion, and the customers are loyal almost by default. It sounds perfect. So why isn't everyone on your street opening one? Because getting in is neither cheap nor simple, and this is where most people are caught off guard. Forget the idea that you can open a laundromat for the price of a used car. A realistic new build, meaning a mid-sized store with 20 or 30 machines inside a leased space, runs somewhere between $200,000 and $500,000 before you wash a single shirt. In a prime, dense urban location, the all-in number can sail right past $1 million. Where does all of that money actually go? The machines are the heart of it. A single commercial washer runs anywhere from $1,500 to $7,000, and the big high-capacity units can top $10,000 or even $15,000 each. Stack a wall of dryers next to them, and the equipment alone for a mid-sized store lands between $150,000 and $300,000. Then come the costs nobody warns you about. A laundromat devours water, gas, and electricity, so the building itself usually needs serious upgrades before it can even function. New plumbing, a bigger gas line, a heavier electrical panel, a commercial water heating system. That hidden infrastructure work can quietly add tens of thousands of dollars on its own. Pile on permits, licensing, insurance, signage, and a cash reserve to survive the first lean months, and you start to understand why this is an entrepreneur's investment, not a quick bet for someone trying their luck. Now assume you already have the money. You immediately face a decision that shapes everything that comes after. Do you build from scratch, or do you buy a laundromat that's already up and running? Building gives you total control. Your location, your layout, your brand new machines that won't break down for years, but it's slower, it's riskier, and you open your doors with exactly 0 customers. Buying an existing store costs you somewhere between $90,000 and $400,000, and you inherit something close to priceless, an established customer base and real cash flow from day one. The catch is that you also inherit somebody else's aging machines and somebody else's hidden problems. Most first-time owners choose to buy rather than build, for the same reason most people would rather move into a finished house than pour the foundation themselves. And now we arrive at the part that surprises almost everyone. How much does the owner actually keep from a single load of laundry? Far less than you would ever guess. A wash costs the customer $2 to $4, and a dry adds another $1.50 to $2.50 on top. It feels like pure profit because the machine is already paid for and the customer does all the labor themselves. But here is what quietly eats that profit alive. Utilities, water, gas, and electricity routinely swallow 20 to 24% of everything the laundromat takes in. That's before rent, before repairs, before the part-time attendant, before insurance, before a single other bill. Every quarter that drops into that slot is already partly spoken for by the utility company before the owner ever sees it. When you strip all of it away, a well-run laundromat keeps somewhere between 20 and 35% of its revenue as actual profit. That sounds healthy, and it genuinely can be, but you have to remember it's a slice of a fairly modest pie. This is a business of small transactions repeated thousands of times, not a business of big-ticket sales. Volume is the whole game. Margin per load means almost nothing on its own. So, let's run the real numbers the way an owner would. The average laundromat in America brings in around $150,000 a year, though individual stores swing anywhere from $30,000 to well over $1 million depending on location, size, and services. Take a small neighborhood store doing that national average. $150,000 in revenue. After utilities, rent, insurance, and constant upkeep, the owner might clear $30,000 to $40,000 across the entire year. Real money, but a long way from the fortune those endless quarters seem to promise. Now step up to a busy, mid-sized store sitting in a dense, renter-heavy neighborhood, pulling in $300,000 to $400,000 a year. There, the owner's cash flow can comfortably climb past $100,000. And a large, high-traffic operation, the kind with wash and fold running all day and a constant churn of customers, can throw off cash flow approaching $300,000 a year. Same basic business, wildly different outcomes, decided almost entirely by location and how the place is run. What about getting your money back? On a typical build, you're usually looking at 3 to 5 years just to recover your original investment. And that's the scenario where everything goes right. After that, though, the laundromat becomes the thing owners actually buy them for, a slow, steady, durable cash machine. And when it's finally time to sell, a healthy store typically fetches 2 to 5 times its annual net income, which means the years of patience get paid back a second time on the way out the door. Here is the line that separates the owners who merely survive from the ones who quietly get rich. The smart ones don't really rely on the quarters at all. The self-service machines exist to bring people through the door. The real money is made in what those people do once they're already standing inside. Wash and fold service, where customers pay $1 to $3 a pound to simply hand over their laundry and walk away, can account for 30 to 40% of a store's income and at much fatter margins than the coin machines. Then there's vending, ATM fees, dry cleaning drop-off, and pickup and delivery. And the quietest profit of all belongs to the owner who also owns the building underneath the business. For that person, the rent that crushes everyone else turns into income paid straight into their own pocket. The most profitable laundromats in the country aren't really laundromats at all. They're real estate plays with a row of washing machines out front. But like any business, there's a shadow side that nobody puts on the brochure. The first threat is printed on every utility bill. Water and energy costs only ever climb, and one brutal rate hike can silently erase a thin margin overnight. The second threat is the equipment itself. These machines run hard all day, every day for years, and when a washer floods or a dryer finally dies, each repair runs from a couple hundred to well over $1,000, and a row of out-of-order machines is revenue you simply never get back. The third is the lease. Most owners don't own their building, so when the lease comes up for renewal, a landlord who sees a thriving business has every reason to raise the rent to a number that no longer works. And the fourth threat is the very myth that started this whole video, the fantasy of the absentee owner. The laundromat that magically runs itself barely exists. The stores that fail are almost always the ones whose owner stopped paying attention. Broken machines, a filthy floor, a sketchy late-night reputation, and customers who, remember, live within a mile of 3 other options and will happily walk to one of them instead. So let's come back to where we started. How much does the owner of the laundromat down your street actually make? If it's a single small neighborhood store, probably $30,000 to $40,000 a year, a modest second income for someone keeping a close eye on it. If it's a busy mid-sized location in the right neighborhood, 6 figures is genuinely realistic. If it's a large operation with wash and fold and vending humming alongside the machines, the cash flow can push toward $250,000 or more. And if it's someone who quietly built a chain of 5 or 10 stores over a decade, owning the buildings beneath every one of them, you're looking at a genuinely wealthy operator whose fortune was assembled 1 quarter at a time. The laundromat is not a money printer. It's a business of thin margins, heavy utility bills, demanding machines, and patience, an enormous amount of patience. The person who walks in expecting easy, passive riches usually walks right back out within a year or two, but the one who treats it as what it truly is, a volume game won through clean floors, working machines, smart extra services, and ideally the dirt under the building, that person stays. And quietly, load after load, quarter after quarter, they end up taking home a number that the rest of us, watching our clothes spin on a slow Sunday afternoon, would never in 100 years have guessed.